Hey everyone, back again, and this time I want to talk about the presence of rats and snakes that have apparently been showing up on the streets and in people's houses and stuff, and what it could mean in the terms of auguries and omens. Um, are they good or bad or a mix of both? Because first off, wasn't it rats that started showing up, or they started more of them showing up, and they started to get bigger, um, and it was kind of worrying. And then the snakes started showing up in the streets, but also I've seen them stories of them breaking into people's houses and stuff, and I wonder what that's about. I mean, on a practical level, yeah, snakes eat rats, don't they? So it kind of makes sense, but um, just things going through my head of what all this could be, and I've just was doing some research, and you're probably going to find this interesting. But I mean, one of the things is that comes to my mind is, and because Thomas Sheridan has mentioned this, and this is what sparked my imagination when he talks about these auguries and everything, doesn't he, with the rats and then the snakes? Because it is kind of fascinating. And I mean, what crossed my mind was of the people that the snake owners that have had embroidery lessons have passed away in their homes, and the snake has realised their owner's dead, so they've escaped. Yeah, that's possible, isn't it? But it's just a fluke, well, a bit of a coincidence that the snakes are following the rats. Did the snakes somehow know that there's lots of big rats on the street, so they, said goodbye to the owners, saying it's been emotional, but there's much more. The grass is greener on the other side. There's loads of rats out there, so I'm going to get them. But on a practical level, I don't know. You don't know again what forces moves these animals, and it's interesting when you look at them as almost like spiritual forces, like I don't know, some forces, nature spirits of demons or something like that. They have maybe the exact consciousness like them. God, just I've even just thought maybe the physical incarnation of what we interpret a lot of demons is certain animals. We always assume that they don't have like a form, but they imitate a form, a shapeshift. But maybe some of them actually their consciousness goes straight inside certain animals that they're energetically and consciously compatible with, like serpents and crocodiles and God knows what else, insects. You just don't know. And that's interesting thought there. But um, I was thinking on the lines of if the rat is can represent, um, yeah, like as Thomas Sheridan put it, a forecoming of death and disease and pestilence. It's a warning. It's a bad um, augury or an omen for people that have had too many embroidery lessons, and so the rats are getting ready. Like the crows do that in. Apparently, they can smell death and stuff like that. So that's it's possibly likely that's what it is. But let's let's also look at what the rat can symbolise as well. Aside from that, the last video I watched, if you watched it, I was talking about certain people from ethnic backgrounds coming here. I used the term maritime fight club, maritime fight club hotel projects. You get it. Silly, really, but I'm trying to, manage my words, as I say. Well, could the rat symbolise them? And because you know, they say when rats, yeah, when they get in big gangs, they change. It's like they become militant and they become gang-like and organised, and they lose fear of humans, and then they start taking over areas, and they will be bold and charge at people and attack them, and they can eat them. Like the it inspired James, is it Herbert? I think that's his second name. the English horror writer that wrote the Rats, right? Um, so there is that, but they become invaders. They take over. If a city has got so much disease and pestilence, rats can take it over and start owning it. So it does. I can link it to the kind of invasion that's happening. With the hotels and all of that. But why? What does a snake mean then? Does it mean exactly the same thing? The snake's a predator. It eats people, constricts them, and so it's sensing the potential of death, and so it's getting ready by showing up in the culture, on the streets, in people's homes. It could be, or is it is it a positive omen? Is it does it symbolize a potential solution to the problem? Because in mythology, the serpent was considered wise. Be wise like serpents, and that came to my mind. So, what if it's a positive omen? It's a solution, like because you have to remember that the serpents are predators too, but it could be used for good. Like what I'll do now is I'll explain go into Buddhism and a little bit of the Hindu culture, mainly just what I've observed walking around the temples and just in general the art. You have the serpent intertwined, as I've said probably in other videos, in everything nearly. The naga, and another word is a payanak, I think. It means the same thing. These I believe, from what I have researched briefly, they guard. So these things guard temples. They protect. They're a protective force, and they even in mythology. I made notes here, so I'm looking. They even one of them guarded Buddha, I think, from a storm or something like that. I'm just looking, as I've looked up on the internet here. I'm just doing my research, but it says, what does the Buddha with a cobra mean? Because the statues with the Buddha and then the 7 cobra heads spread almost like a rainbow above his head. So it says the Naga Buddha statues are taken as a very important religious as well as a spiritual object for many followers of Buddhism, as it depicts the Buddha being protected by the Naga, representing the faithful protection of the awakened one by the king of the serpents. And so, I'm thinking, let's look at these as forces as well, archetypes and forces, spiritual forces. To me, I need to look into Buddhism more, I know, but to me, it can symbolize many things. But one of the things it could mean is once you tame a force and you transmute it, or you go through the shadow, that force sides with you. It becomes a protector. When you understand it, perhaps, and you know how to wield it, you know how to wield that energy, it no longer becomes an adversary against you. It's kind of like perhaps the school bully being your friend when you stand up to it, or something like that, kind of. But maybe that's what this is about, because Naga, they're apparently a semi-divine, just looking at my notes, race that can shapeshift, half man, half serpent, cobra, right? And they're also associated with water and floods, and this could connect, the floods and the water can connect also to current problems in Europe as well, I think. So I was looking up Naga powers. What powers do they have? And it's interesting here. Like, one of them is monetary manipulation, and I was like, oh, okay. Regenerative healing factor, shapeshifting, human in disguise, interesting. water magic, water manipulation, and I thought of the floods maybe, that there's floods happening in, I think it's New York or something where like that. There's bad floods, and this is a power of them, weather manipulation floods. So I don't know if the snake is connected to that, but it could be. You just don't know. But you know, is this it? Are these snakes showing up? Do they mean? Is it a native omen and augury, or is it a foreign one? Like, because you have the serpent dragon in China, and I was thinking, does it mean China? Like, does it mean China takeover kind of thing? It could mean that, from the perspective of you know, China manipulating and running the show in secret from the embroidery lessons, from, you know, maybe it was them, you know, they're declaring a war on us. And the Chinese dragon also has an ability apparently to manipulate weather and cause floods and stuff like that if you get on its bad side. And I think it's a dragon in the east, Azura, something like that, can cause floods and storms. So you have the black dragon from China, that dwells in the depths of the dark waters, and that can symbolize the subconscious, can't it? So, but it could be a negative, could be a positive. I'd like to think it's a positive. Could be a solution. And one of the things across my mind is a big python can be seen as like a barrier or a wall. So maybe it means that Europe, you need to be protective over your people. You need to build walls. You need to guard, and you need to get rid of undesirables. Right? You know, that's how I'm going to say it without using certain words and terms that might get this video blocked. It's about being tough. Maybe the European people being tough and dealing. You know, like I don't know. I was just like in the shops today, and I thought of the film Demolition Man, where it says send a maniac to catch a maniac, and it's a bad example, I think, of words, but it's like deal with a predator with another predator, but one that you can use, you can tame, and then you can use that force, and that could represent the snake. Another thing, yeah, so it could be a native force, representing, you know, the dragon still here, and that George apparently slayed. You know, symbolically, this dragon and the serpent is still part of our culture, and we need to awaken it, awaken our serpent, awaken our dragon, and reclaim our sovereignty, and reclaim our countries, and build walls, you know, that kind of thing. Okie dokie. I think I've said everything I need to say. But it really got me thinking. Anyway, I hope you find it interesting, and I will talk to you in the next video. Cheers. Bye bye.